boils and ghouls. Turn out the lights and keep the popcorn coming, because it's time for another episode of Fright Frights Podcast. Fright Frights Podcast. Get ready for your gore gang. Tyler Cavan, Chris Lax, and Mike McKinney tackling horror news, reviews, and fight for their survival. Coming to you from the Fright Frights Fear Lodge. Get ready to sink your fangs into a battle that will make your blood run cold. This is Fright Fights. Fright Fights.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Fright Fights podcast, and we hope you enjoy this fantastic edition, as today we will be reviewing 3 horror vampire films that will be battling at the end together. Tyler himself is going to be giving his thoughts on Infinity Pool, and also we have to share a little bit about our paranormal experiences that a few of us have had. Not really paranormal, but more of like sleep paralysis. I've had a few things going on about that, so I wanted to talk and discuss that topic with you guys and just see what your all's thoughts were. But we could be out watching Scream 6 right now, but instead we're at home. We're in our rooms and we're recording a podcast instead. So for you guys, we were doing that for you guys.
What are y'all dragging?
We love our fans.
I'm so mad. We could be over here just watching the #1 horror film so far this year. I've heard nothing besides good things.
Oh, and the killer is...
Exactly. Just letting y'all know, we're going to spoil it for you right here, right now. So, Chris, you said you were actually currently... Something threw me off. You said, I'm currently experiencing sleep paralysis issues. Are you having sleep paralysis right now? Are we real? I'm kidding.
No, so okay. So the reason I brought this topic up is I've been binge watching Ghost Hunters. So this was a show that was a paranormal show back in like 2004 all the way through 2014, somewhere around that time frame. And I was really into it. It's one of the things that got me into ghosts and the paranormal, and going down to Waverly Hills and visiting that place multiple times and doing tours and everything. But with it, there's all kinds of different things that you can really relate to the paranormal, whether it be ghost or sleep paralysis or just a lot of different aspects of the unknown. And so as I'm watching Ghost Hunters and I'm seeing all these different things happen, I start thinking about all the stuff that's happened to me in my past, and a few different sleep paralysis stories that's happened to me that I couldn't explain until I did research on and found out what the actual cause was. Right. And it's just a very interesting topic to begin with. I don't know if you guys have experienced sleep paralysis before.
I can't say I've experienced. I mean, I'm very well aware of what sleep paralysis kind of does to somebody. I've had a couple experiences. Like I've had this one experience where I guess you could say it's a version of sleep paralysis, but I couldn't exactly pinpoint, it being fully sleep paralysis. I remember one time I was asleep and something seemed like it was like going off like a bomb almost, and it woke me up in the middle of my sleep and I like panicked. But whenever I panicked, I felt like pins and needles all over my body, and then it went away.
So it's not sleep paralysis. That's from a thing. It's called exploding head syndrome. And
come on, Chris, just educating everybody.
All right, guys, new podcast.
So exploding head syndrome is really based where you're in the middle of a dream. Inside the dream that you're having, there is some type of loud noise, explosion, car wreck, anything like that can cause a loud noise. And it happens at the exact moment that you wake up. So whenever you wake up, you still hear that sound because it's still in your head. And it makes you feel like whatever you heard is in the house with you or happened right outside the house or close nearby. So if you had an explosion that happened, you wake up thinking, oh my gosh, something just exploded right beside me or something exploded in the house. So really weird, just kind of like a cool little not really paranormal or anything, but just a weird, unknown thing that happens to people while they sleep.
Mm.
And I've had that happen a few times before, but that's definitely one of those things that's really interesting to talk about. I was telling Mike about it before, where I had the same experience where I woke up, thinking that something had crashed through our house. That's what it sounded like. It was just like somebody took like a dryer or a washer and dryer machine and it just set it on top of the roof and it just crashed through our house. And I woke up thinking, oh my God, something had just fallen through. And I got up to actually investigate the house to see what it was, and didn't know until later on about what that actually was from. But the main thing is sleep paralysis, which for those of you that don't know what it is, it's a really terrifying experience that people can have, and it has nothing to do with the paranormal whatsoever, at least that we know of. So basically, when you're in the middle of sleeping and your body shuts itself down in the middle of a certain like sleep realm, so that way it basically paralyzes itself, so that way you don't get up and sleepwalk. Which some people are affected by that, and it actually causes them to their body doesn't fully shut down. They get up and they actually sleepwalk. But that is supposed to stop you from being able to do that or acting out your dreams in the middle of sleep. So there are occurrences where you wake up suddenly from your sleep, but your body doesn't recognize that it has woken up yet. So your body is still in its sleep mode. It's still paralyzed. So you can't move. You can't do anything at all. But the weird thing about it is that during the time period that you have it, which only lasts about 10 to 15 seconds, if that, but what it makes it feel like an eternity, because almost every single sleep paralysis story that somebody has experienced, it is all brought on with a feeling of complete dread, a feeling of something bad is going to happen, or seeing things. Like everybody, a lot of people who have experienced it have seen things in their rooms with them, or like a shadow man or a demon or even aliens to an extent. It's just a really strange thing that happens that nobody can really explain what the reason is that correlates sleep paralysis with these visions or experiences. And I have had a few of those myself. One in particular instance that I've had was I was probably around like 24, 25 years old at the time. And I remember at the time I was sleeping in a room that was pitch black. I used to sleep all the time before I had a kid with like a blanket over the window so that no light came in, a floor fan that would set directly next to the bed to drown out all the sound. And I remember I woke up, couldn't move. I was completely paralyzed. And it was like there was someone standing in the doorway. I couldn't see anything, but it felt like there was someone standing there, like that sixth sense. But at the exact same time, my entire body felt dread, like just like a full sensation of dread, like something horrible was about to happen. And at that moment as well, it felt like that presence at the door was moving closer and closer to me, to the point to where it felt like it was right up like a half an inch away from my face. And just the entire time it was just complete dread. I thought that whatever was there, whatever was causing this, was there to do something horrible, and there was no way I could move. Like I couldn't move. I tried to scream. I couldn't even get any voice out or anything like that. And then suddenly you just snap out of it and the entire feeling of dread is gone. And I don't know how to explain it other than it's just the most terrifying but coolest thing that's ever happened to me as far as like sleeping stuff goes.
Did all that happen after a long night at Applebee's?
Yeah, exactly. I had too much salmon.
I love it. Well, one thing I want to say. Well, first of all, I want to recommend The Nightmare. Chris, you haven't seen The Nightmare. Mike, have you seen The Nightmare? It's a documentary. Used to be on Netflix. I don't know if it still is. It's about sleep paralysis, and I love it so much because you hear all these like
It's on
crazy.
Shudder.
Is it on Shutter now? So
Mhm.
yeah, guys, if you're into like anything kind of like creepypasta or any kind of like thing like that, definitely check it out because it's not a creepypasta, but it does feel like it because you hear about different experiences of people with sleep paralysis. Really interesting. I love it at the end because it was like, you've watched this entire documentary and studies have shown that sleep paralysis is more prominent whenever you've talked about it right before. And it's just like, crap, I've watched this entire 90-minute documentary, and the last question it leaves you with is the fact that, hey, it could happen to you now because we've talked about it so much. And I just love that so much. But have you guys heard about Zach Baggins?
No.
No,
What
are you
about him?
guys fans of him?
Oh yeah.
I wish I could remember exactly what was going on, but you mentioned Ghost Adventures, I think, Chris, and obviously, if you guys know Zach Baggins, he is the main
I
guy.
like Ghost Hunters. Ghost Hunters is the one I like. I
Yeah,
feel like
Ghost
that's
Hunter.
the more realistic one where they go through and try to debunk
Right.
situations. Like if somebody has a paranormal experience at the house, the Ghost Hunter team goes in and says what in real life could cause these experiences, and we will do our best to figure that out. And if we try everything and can't reproduce that effect or that thing that's happening, then we'll say that could be paranormal.
Mm.
But Zach Baggins from Ghost Adventures, man, he's just like, no matter where we go to, it's the scariest place, the most haunted place in the entire world, and I'm going to do everything
I
I
like
can
it.
to make ghosts
I
attack
want
people.
it.
Like,
I like it.
I just
I
like it.
want I want to be
I love that
attacked.
because
When I
he's
watch
like
a Ghost
challenging
Adventure,
them.
yes. Right? Yes, like he's talking shit to him. Like, hey,
So
come
funny.
get me, fuckers. Like
Yeah, he's like
it's
challenging the ghost.
it's very I like Ghost Adventures, man. It's entertaining. And that's
I
what
mean,
it's
Ghost
for. I
Hunters is
mean,
great because they're the OGs as well. But I
right.
think Ghost Adventures has something about it that's really kind of
Didn't
novelty because just Zach's like a whole character within himself.
like wasn't Ghost Hunters? Didn't they work for like Roto-Rooter? Like like
yeah,
their
they
day
were
job.
plumbers. Yeah,
That's
Say
hilarious.
yeah.
they're cleaning shit up, then they go hunt ghosts.
No, it's just like Zach
No, but
Baggins is like hilarious just because the guy is just such a character. I mean, it's just
yeah,
he's like sort of screaming at the ghost. Everything is like haunted. He's like, let me tell you, the
yeah,
ghost. He's just like one of those like I don't know how you would describe him. I'm sure people listening as fans. I'm a fan. I'm not trying to shit talk him or anything, but it's just like
right.
it's goofy. I don't know. He actually has a museum. I can't talk. He has a museum in Las Vegas called the Haunted Museum, and I want to go
Hmm.
to that so bad. You have to sign a disclosure
Yeah,
and like a what is it? What do you have to sign when you go in places? You know what I'm talking about. It'll like write
a
your life away. What am I I'm losing this word.
a consent maybe or
Like a
no
consent.
or
Yeah, you have to
yeah, kind of
consent
yeah.
to it. And if you go in, like they basically say you can be haunted. Like this place is so haunted, you can be haunted. I'm like,
Huh.
wow. But I guess Zach Baggins is like under fire and he's getting canceled right now because he is executive producer of some other ghost shows, and one of them I forget, I think it was premiering on Discovery Plus or something. And he had a friend of his get his own show, and I guess he canceled it underneath like really weird circumstances. I don't know exactly what it is. I don't want to speak to it here on the record, just in case I'm messing this up completely. But definitely look
Hmm.
it up and do some investigative work into it. I am not seeing any like thing about it on here. I was trying to read it to you guys, but um, I'm sure more will come out in the next couple of days because it's becoming increasingly concerning, I guess, what he's done. So
Wow.
that's a kind of interesting thing to bring up was like Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, because the paranormal community is kind of under fire right now.
Well, the reason I started watching it again is because I used to watch it when it first aired, back in 2004, all the way up to at least 2010 is when I stopped watching, I believe. But I think it aired all the way through 2014. But they brought the show back in 2020 or 2019 on A&E. And for some weird reason, those seasons that are from A&E are on Disney Plus. And so whenever I was, trying to find something to watch for my daughter, I came across it being listed as newly added to Disney Plus. And I was like, what the heck? They have Ghost Hunters and it's stuff I've never seen before. So I was like, got really interested in it and again and started watching it and have fell in love with it all over again. And obviously those things when you start me, of course, watching Ghost Hunters at 2 o'clock in the morning in a pitch black room and then having to get up and go to the kitchen for whatever reason or go to the basement for whatever reason makes it more intense because you have those thoughts in your head and you have those ideas of what's going to happen and then it just creates a whole new scenario in your mind and it makes it a really cool experience. So I've just gotten really into it a lot.
Yeah.
Do you ever have anything in your movie room give you the creeps at night, Chris? Because I remember I had this one. Okay, there was something about the Sinister dude. I forgot the guy's name that plays him, but oh my god, Bagoo. Am I right? Bagoo?
God bless you.
Bagoo. Um,
Gesundheit.
so the guy's so creepy. I mean, like obviously like sinister, like his like mask is legit. Like this guy, I've seen the mask in person, and I'm like, oh my god, it's insane how crazy realistic and like hyper like horror it is. And
Yeah.
he signed the picture for me whenever I met him at a convention a couple of years ago. I hung it up in my movie room, and at nighttime I used to walk by it sometimes, and I would just see it in the corner of my eye, and the way I positioned it on the wall looked like somebody was standing there staring at me. And I was like, I would get like
Creepy.
freaked out. I was like, wait, now turn on the light. I was like, oh wait, it's just a picture. So it was just like,
Yeah.
it's like, has that ever happened to you? Like, maybe like, oh my god, is somebody down here?
Well, you know that my movie room is my basement. So all my movies and collectibles and everything is all stored and stuff down here in the basement. And the only way to get to the basement is a spiral staircase that we have, which it's a floating staircase. So all the where you step is all completely see through and everything like that. So anytime that I'm down here, we have to there's only light switches in the basement.
Right.
So we have to turn the lights off completely and then walk up the stairs. And usually the lights upstairs are already off too, so it's pitch black trying to walk up a spiral staircase. And if you've watched something creepy, like the night that I watched Hell House LLC and got creeped out anyways, had to walk up the spiral staircase. It's open. The entire time you start to walk up, you just feel like at any moment something's going to reach up and grab your feet. So that's a really weird feeling I have anytime I leave during the middle of the night. But as far as being like something that I own just scare me, I haven't had that experience.
The way you said that shit cracks me up. No, like and it's a spiral staircase at that too. So like if the Hell House LLC clowns after you, you're just screwed because that
You're
thing is
done for.
yeah, it's impossible to
Oh
run
yeah.
that staircase.
Oh, I've
Dude,
fell down
like,
that
let me
thing so
ask
many
you
fucking
something.
times.
I was gonna say, have you ever been drunk and like trying to walk up it or down it?
I can't do it sober.
Too
No,
funny.
honestly, I've walked up that staircase a time or two, and yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm not good with spiral staircases in general. So you put me on a spiral staircase, it's not going to end well.
Yeah,
I would have already
it's
fallen.
very disorienting because it's really small and narrow, and like the closer you get to the top, the walls are enclosed from the living room, so it's like to enter the living room, so it makes it harder to like carry stuff up it. It's just very odd.
Yeah. So, what y'all been watching lately? It's been a little while since we got together, so hopefully there's some good
I
stuff.
told you I watch Ghost Hunters. That's all I've watched.
God, creeper. Man, I watched a classic not too long ago. Introduced People Under the Stairs with my daughter.
Love it.
Such a great movie. It's like honestly maybe top 20 for me. Top 15. It's up there. My daughter really liked it. It just brought back a lot of memories when like I remember watching it the very first time with my dad and just the creepiness of that film. And I still to this day thought it was so well done. I watch People Under the Stairs, and then I'm kind of on a kick of watching the Screams. So before I go to see Scream 6, I'm right now, I just finished up 4. So I'll probably watch 5 sometime tomorrow, and then boom, go see 6. So what about you guys?
What is your Scream ranking, Mike?
Good question. First one obviously is number 1. Um, Number 2 is kind of tough because I really like the second one and I really like the fifth one. So it's probably going to go the original 1, 5, 2, 4, 3. The movie, the Hollywood scene is just not for me. Scream 3 is the worst for me.
So my ranking, my favorite is Scream 3.
I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry. My bad.
You should have saw the look in his face was just like, "Fuck it, I'm out. I'm no longer doing the podcast."
Yeah, you know what? All right. I'm out. Bye. I'm sorry. The Scream 3 was not good.
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no!
So, I mean, obviously, I think anybody that I have yet to meet somebody who has not said that Scream, like the first one, has been their favorite. I think it's just
True.
absolutely hard to touch. It's a classic. It's never going to.
Yep.
I don't even know if six. I don't know if they can make a Scream again that outdoes the first. Unless it's like something like years and years on and like technology's changed a lot or something. But obviously, Scream is my favorite. Probably a toss up between Scream 2 and Scream 5 is right there next to each other. They're like a tie. Then I would go Scream 4 and then Scream 3 would be my least favorite,
Yep.
which they're all great. Scream 2
Right.
hokey at times. Scream 3 is a disaster for the most part, but still it's it was a Scream movie. It was enjoyable enough. It just let the stupid like conclusion of the entire series at the time get past you. Scream 4, it was all right. A lot of people hated it. I didn't hate it quite as much as everybody else.
Yeah.
But I know that's Chris's favorite, right? Scream 4.
Oh,
Absolutely not. So I've gone a little different ways each time. Like Scream has always been my favorite one, no matter what. I don't think anybody could ever outdo the first one. But the rest of the franchise has pretty much fluctuated a little bit. Whenever Scream 5 first came out, I was like, that's my favorite sequel of the entire series. So it's going to be the first and then part 5. But after rewatching them a few times, I think part 2 is still my second favorite. I just love the whole thing with being on college, after the high school scene from the first one. Still love everything with Dewey coming back, and even though they killed Randy, whatever, he was my favorite from that one. Scream 3 would be the next one because even though that there's a lot of stuff wrong with the movie, I still really enjoy it, and you still have the original cast with it. You still got Nev Campbell and all of them. Part 4 is where I think, I don't know if it's just new age of it or whatever. The opening scene is one of the things that makes me not really like it that much because it kind of it parodies itself. It really opens up with like a scary movie plot where there's a film and you think it's the actual movie, and then ta-da, it's not. It's a movie.
I think that makes it
And then
fun.
Yeah, me too. I like it.
Without that, I
thought
think
it's
that is
just
like showing. I think it's important that the series is like, we're not going to take ourselves too serious anymore. We understand what we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but there's a line between being a parody and being just meta, and it was more of a parody of itself than it was being meta. And to me, I did not like that part of it.
I really the fun fact about this, obviously, I mean, I will give props when props due. Scream 3 is the only one that has one killer. So I mean it stands out, but I just didn't like the whole step, like, what is it, half brother type of deal with Sydney. I don't know. I didn't it wasn't awful. Like, none of the Scream films are terrible in my opinion. They aren't just as good as some of the others, within the franchise. I was a fan of 4. I liked 4. I thought 4 was kind of dark in some ways, but still comical in the others. But the one kill, what was it, the neighbor, when she was like looking through the window, that was a pretty brutal kill. Like, completely tore her up. And then that introduced us Kirby, and I think Kirby is not an ugly person. I think she's pretty attractive, and I'm kind of looking forward to her in Scream 6.
I'm dying here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
when they pulled a Rob Zombie Scream 3, I was kind of out at that point. Obviously with the half brother thing. But I cannot wait. I'm telling you guys, I can just not stop thinking of Scream.
Oh,
The one,
dude,
I mean,
set me.
I got my $100 popcorn bucket ordered, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, me too. It'll come out in August.
Like, right? It's like I'm like, at that point, do I want it still? Yes.
Right.
I had to get 2 of them because Brittany was like, "Do you want me to order this for you?" And I'm like, "Well, it won't be here till August. There's no point to do it." She's like, "But do you want it?" And I said, "Yes." She's like, "Okay, I'll only order it for you if you're going to put popcorn in it." And I said, "No, I'm going to use it as a display piece." So she's like, "Okay, I'm ordering you two of them, one for display and one for popcorn." So now
Brittany
I'm going to
wants to
have
use it for popcorn.
two display pieces.
Hey, there you go. Love it.
Smart man.
I know. It's crazy how popular they were. So I watched a movie called Infinity Pool. It's something that's quite polarizing. As you guys know, I always bring something rather polarizing to the podcast. I'm Captain No Fun over here.
Always.
Um, but
Captain
no,
Artsy.
dude, this was so fun, and I really think that you guys will like it. I'm telling you. Here's how it goes, though. Okay, whenever I'm like, Chris, I'm telling you, I love this movie so much. You've got to see it. You'll love it so much. And I'll
I
just like,
avoid watching it.
he avoids watching it, and then whenever I get his ass to sit down and watch it, I'll be like, what does he think? What's he think? And I see him again, and he just like shrugs and says, it was all right. And then I get so I'm like, what?
Right.
I don't know about Mike though. Mike, I haven't really like yet. I have yet to recommend you something that you've been like absolutely like, meh, I'm not really into it at all. Mike's been pretty cool about it so far. Chris, on the other,
So what the fuck is the movie even about?
so Infinity Pool. All right. So, and this is
Sex.
a valid question, honestly.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. Okay, so starting out, this is Brandon Cronenberg. This is David Cronenberg's son. Think David Cronenberg. Chris hates him. Just not. It's not his thing.
I don't hate him. There's a lot of movies of his that I really like, but him like in general, the idea of him making a movie does not interest me any. I don't know why. Like I like Existence. Like that's one of my favorite movies of his. I like Scanners, you know. I like Shivers. It's just an okay movie. I like The Brood. Like there's so much stuff that he does that I like. But at that same point, like when someone says, "Oh, Cronenberg's coming out with a new movie," I'm just like, eh.
I mean, if somebody told me that today, I'd be like, meh. But if somebody told me that and it was like the 80s, I would be like, hell yeah, I'm there. And going back and looking at his filmography from the 80s, even 90s, I think was really good. And I agree with you, like The Brood and Shivers are like my favorite. But nonetheless, his son is following in his footsteps. He's kind of bringing a weird spin to body horror. It's not quite Infinity Pool. You can't necessarily say is 100% body horror. So the basic premise, and this is kind of giving it away, but it's worth it. So there is a couple that goes to this remote island. It's kind of like a lockdown country. It kind of gives like third world country vibes in a way because it's very like recluse, very secretive, just very like, it's not necessarily a place you would normally want to travel to, it seems like. And he's a writer, the guy is, and he's like there to finish his book or he's there to write and kind of just escape reality. So eventually what happens is they meet up with some friends, they make it the resort. And this resort is very like White Lotus-y. If anyone has watched White Lotus, it's like very bougie
Yeah.
seeming. And
Yeah.
so what happens is they go on this like drive around the country. And on this drive, some things happen, they do some stuff, sexual stuff. But aside from that, they eventually get really drunk and hang out. And the guy, his name's James, he accidentally runs over a local man and kills him. They all panic. Mia Goth is also in this, and Mia Goth, obviously being from X, she's been in several different kind of like Ty West, like the entire X franchise. She plays that role so well, and she kind of carries it over to Infinity Pool. So she's freaking out in a way that's like very like not surprised. Like she's like, oh my gosh, but she seems kind of like whatever, I don't really care. So you can tell something's very wrong because she's like, just leave. They're gonna find you. They're going to incarcerate you. Your entire life's gonna be over with. You're never gonna leave this island ever. And he's like, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna call the police. And like they're all panicking. So eventually, they leave the scene. He flees. He goes back to the resort. They kind of play it off. They go to bed. The next morning when they wake up, the police are there. He doesn't really know who turned him in, but somebody did, or maybe they just found the body. Fast forward, he gets to the jail, and they offer him. This is where the story really kicks in. The premise is he thinks he's gonna die, or he thinks he's gonna be like killed on death row. They say, "Listen, you can either A, come to prison for life and or possibly get executed, or B, we have a what was it? It was like a visitor incentive. It's like a tourism incentive." And he's like, "Okay, what is this tourism incentive?" And they say, "We can basically, you pay us a fee. We can clone your body to your exact DNA. We found a way to match your DNA perfectly. Build yourself into a brand new like person. And the only caveat is you can go free, but we have to have something to execute. So what we'll do is we're going to execute your actual body and you will live in your clone body." So then it gets kind of gruesome there for a second because he goes into this process of like this like weird, this is where it gets artsy. So Chris, this is the artsy part. He kind of goes into this room and there's like gloop, like this nasty gross gloop, and then like strobe effects come on. It's really beautiful the way it's told too, the story. And like he just basically goes through this excruciating process of being cloned, wakes up and walks himself, down and notices his body is like sitting there alive, and he can see two of himself for the first time. So he knows like this is real, and they're like, this is going to be like up to you to watch this kind of thing. And what makes it really intense is they bring out the son of the dad that was killed. So like it was his dad that was killed, like ran over by him. They brought out the mother and the son, and the son goes up and is able to execute his like original body himself. And basically, so I'm telling you like very explicit details, but aside from that, essentially he learns that like his friends and other people that's at this resort have learned about this before, and they use this as a lawless escape. So what they do is they travel from like their normal hometown or whatever. They all gather here and like meet almost like at a retreat kind of deal, and they just do whatever the hell they want. They have wild sex orgies, they just kill people, they cause havoc around the resort because they know no matter what amount of trouble they can get in, they're going to get arrested by the police, they're going to pay a fee to them, and then they're going to clone their body, watch it be executed, be released, and then just do it over and over again. There's a lot of stuff that goes down. It gets really crazy. The ending, I mean, I'm not going to even spoil the ending for anybody who hasn't seen it because it's so new, but I'm just going to say it has some crazy, crazy twists and turns.
Okay, wait a minute.
Yes.
This just might be me overthinking the plot that you just described, but what would be the point into cloning someone and then instead of killing the other person if the exact same clone is the exact, like it's still them with the same thoughts and everything. So like if somebody did a crime, they're gonna die for it. It's still the same body and still the same thoughts. So would they just go and do the same crime again? Like it doesn't make any sense on why they would.
That's the exact thing.
It's kind of a pointless.
You're able to go free, but to the people of the area that lives there, like this is like a reclusive kind of island, almost like a third world country kind of setup. They're like, we will offer like them to see somebody be executed. Like whenever a crime's committed, a body has to be put up for execution. Like if it's a bad enough crime, like murder or something. So they still will execute them publicly to like show like, hey, we're doing something about this, but they don't want to hurt their tourism. So what they do in order to get money for the area they live in the resort is they allow people to pay out, I think it was like $10,000 or something like that each time. And they want to continue doing it because every time that they commit a major crime and then come back to get cloned, that's $10,000 in their pocket for the resort. So it's kind of like this tourism incentive that's giving them money at the end of the day. And it becomes almost like transactional. So they're okay with it. They keep it very hush hush. They don't let anybody know they have this cloning technology.
I don't know.
It's
I
interesting. I want to see it. I like. the way you're describing it's interesting. It sounds something I
I
would
don't
give
know.
myself
The
time to
deaths
watch.
are absolutely gruesome. I'm telling you, like the deaths are like they're pretty
I- I've
like
watched
R-rated. Like
I've watched movies like Pinocchio's Revenge, but this movie sounds really fucking stupid.
I'm mad.
I don't
I gave it
know.
an 8, Chris. I gave it an 8. I absolutely thought this was really, really fun. Did I have questions, Chris? Did I have questions? Yes. I asked many questions throughout. I was like, does this make I was asking the same questions you did, but something about it was interesting enough that it worked. It wasn't your typical horror film. It was doing something different. I respected it for trying to do something different. It wasn't like, oh, we're gonna watch the same old thing happen again and again and again. This was something that you only see like once every year that comes out that like does something so weird and off the wall that you're like, you know what? I respect this film for doing something completely different. And that's why I gave it a name. We love you, Brandon. Shout out to you.
So, you know what that means? We're gonna have to put it on the wheel one day. You're gonna have to choose that movie and make me watch it and see if it changes my mind about it.
Here's the thing, I have body horror on there. So technically, since they are doing body modification and the body is changing multiple times, you could choose that for that.
Yeah, I've heard that it's clearly a body horror film. So yeah, we get that as the listing for it for our next genre, then
You
yeah,
won't
you can
choose
choose
it.
it.
You will?
No, I mean I'm not gonna choose the film, but you can.
I'm pissed. All right. Wait, where are we? We have more films to talk about, right? Did I
I
describe Infinity Pool well enough, you think? Let me see. I have so much I can say about this. Yeah, I'm done.
yeah, I think so. I think you described it okay. I was letting you describe what you were thinking of, like the plot and everything, and I was trying to run it through my head, and I just kept thinking about this sounds like the most pointless idea ever.
Oh, if it tells you anything, the film was rated NC-17 and it had to go back and be re-edited over. It was one of those films that had to be re-edited over and over again to get the R rating. So that's how thin of a line it walks between R and NC-17 because the sex gets sexy, the gore gets gory, the killings get very extra, extra killy. It's crazy. Is that right?
Hmm. Interesting.
So, anything else, y'all?
Actually, watch anything?
Ghost Hunters. I fucking watched Ghost Hunters.
God, that's it.
How many
That's
episodes have you
it.
watched so far? Have you rewatched the
I
entire
watched
series?
I watched 2 seasons worth, which they're an hour each. I watched 2 seasons worth within the last week. So
How many episodes per season?
um 8 or 9. No, well, the first one has like 14, I think, but then the second season has like 8 or 9.
Good God.
I know. It's gone on literally since the beginning of time.
I told you I've been binge watching that and I fell in love with it again. And that's all I can watch.
Well,
Oh, they're good. I mean, they're good for sure.
I can't get you to watch Ghost Adventures.
Yeah, Ghost Adventures.
But you all know if we ever went to Vegas, we're gonna go to the Haunted Museum. No matter
I'm
what.
already
Oh,
there.
definitely.
Let's go. Let's
Definitely.
go.
Heck yeah. All right, y'all. Well, I guess we're gonna take a quick break and we're gonna come back and we are going to get ready for the battle.
The battle.
All right.
Battle of the Bite.
What they said. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. We are about ready for our vampire battle. Starting here, we have Mike's pick because I literally cannot wait to talk about this film. I think this is gonna be a really, really good one. So, Mike, do you want to tell us about what you chose?
Yes, sir. Okay, so I picked the movie Blood Red Sky. And I have to admit, I had to watch this twice because the first time, I'm not a huge fan of like dubbed films. Like it's hard for me to really get involved and interested trying to watch the film. The lip reading, it's just like the words and the mouth just didn't sync together, especially with the little boy in the movie. So that really bothered me. But I watched it the second time, and I really enjoyed watching it the second time because I watched it for what it was worth, the movie, not trying to pay attention of it being like, what is it, German film? I'm assuming, yeah, German.
Yeah, it's a German film.
Yeah, okay. So Blood Red Sky is the story of basically a single mother who happened to have been bit by a creature, a vampire, earlier, in the or early in her life, and she takes a drug to like basically manage her condition, but the violence, it's just built within her of her becoming a vampire that tries to consume her life.
So was
So
the drug that she was taking, was that an actual drug for her being a vampire to control it, or was it just a regular drug to control something else that just happened to?
no, I think that was the drug to control her outbreak. It was to calm her down, whatever it was. And now I don't know exactly what drug it was, but
Yeah, like I knew she was going to America for like some kind of a treatment, like as it was kind of alluded to that she had like a terminal illness, almost like a leukemia or cancer. So I was like,
Yeah,
you're led to
right.
believe that she's taking pills for that. But then after everything happens, I think it's very obvious that maybe she was being, kind of quiet about that so that maybe she didn't alarm her son or something. Because I think she was obviously taking some kind of a pill that they had formed maybe to keep her calm or something.
Calm, yeah.
yeah, because I thought it was
But
weird that she was going and having like medicine for her cause or whatever of being a
They're iron
vampire.
pills. They're iron pills, guys.
But I was gonna say, but nobody
Right?
knows, like, nobody knows that she's a vampire or that vampires exist. So why would she be going to a facility to help calm her from being a vampire?
they're Flintstone pills, okay? God dang it.
Chris,
They're Flintstone.
she was
I
hungry.
mean, shit. They're Flintstone pills. I mean, shit, Flax. But anyways, so the
Once a
movie
day
opens
keeps the
up.
vampires away.
Hey,
You haven't done it? No. Is that right?
trademark that. Trademark that.
Love it.
But the opening scene, it's like it opens up really quick where it's like mayhem and chaos, and a plane has been apparently like hijacked, and it's like making an emergency landing. I think at like a Scottish airport, and like the forces are ready for action. They're not letting the individuals off the plane, and you're kind of like wondering, like, man, like what's going on. So a small boy comes down from the plane, and the forces try to interrogate him about what is happening inside the plane, and then it's like it cuts back to a flashback, and it's entertaining. It's very entertaining, and it's very well done. And the graphics, the makeup, it's all well done. Repeating back to the first time I watched it, kind of getting sidetracked. First time I did not like it. I was like, I hated this. But then I watched it again and I really enjoyed it. Blood Red Sky is, let me get to this point. I don't think it's not really about vampires. And it isn't really about like the hijack either. I think it's like a beautiful bond between the mother and son. How much a mother would, a parent in general would do for their child. And the mother's trying to suppress her evil, side, so she isn't like, so her son doesn't see her forming into a vampire, seeing, danger. And when when the other vampires on the plane, sees her as a partial human back and forth. The one guy, God, what is his name? I can't think of it. It was one of the hijackers. He was like obsessed with, like, he wanted to know, like, how is she doing this? And didn't he like take her blood and pump it into him? Or it's been a while. It's been a couple weeks now since I watched it.
Wasn't it
But
was it 8 Ball? The hijacker
maybe
played by Alexander Shear. I was looking up these names because I always get the
Yeah,
hijackers confused.
I don't know any of the cast members from the film, so I
I
wouldn't
don't
quote
either.
you with
So
names.
Tyler, that might be right. I just know that guy.
It's
Oh,
eight
he
ball for
got on
sure.
my damn nerves, but he did it well. He played the role that he was playing so well as the bad guy, and like he noticed her, like he shot her in the beginning, right by in front of her son, and she was down, and all of a sudden her body was gone. He was like, "Where the hell is she?" Um, and I think they had another interaction below the plane when like the dog, like there was the woman bit the dog, sucked the dog's blood or something like that to kind of give her a little bit more energy. Um, but back to the story of not really about a vampire or the hijack or the chaos. It was a really well written movie about just the bond between mother and son. Um, and like it kind of is like you almost kind of get as well an action movie mixed with like a Die Hard kind of theme in a way, like on the plane, but a mixture with like vampires, incorporated. But to me, it was thinking outside the box with a vampire movie. You have like vampire movies now are either about you know love, younger teenagers. I mean, there hasn't really been a great vampire movie since like I feel 30 Days of Nights, um, or even the Lost Boys. I mean, if you're going to go back, Fright Night. But this was up there because it was different. It was action, it was a mixture with everything that drama, and it
I
was
actually
thinking
made
outside the box.
I made a note whenever I was watching it too, because I think we got about 30 minutes into it, or maybe even 40 minutes into it, before any real vampire stuff happens. And I made a note and I said, "This is a really well made action movie."
It is, yeah, and it's like, and I like this because like I like the idea of a good vampire battling villains for once. So you got that as well. The mother was like really like the good vampire, if that makes sense, battling villains and battling bad vampires after they were infected and starting to change. So she was like pretty much a badass. The mom, she was trying to keep it under control for her son, battling hijackers, battling bad vampires, and then at the same time still trying to save lives. And I was like, it was just the edge of your seat type of deal. And I love this movie. The second time I watched it, so, let me say that again. The first time I watched it, did not like it. I wanted to turn it off, but I watched it again and really paid attention. And I gave this movie a 7 out of 10. I really enjoyed Blood Red Sky for what it was. Action mixture with drama, mixture with the vampire, mixture with kind of a love story as well between mother and son.
Well, you mentioned too at the beginning of the movie that the plot pretty much takes place with the kid having a flash or like telling the
Yeah.
story. Like it's a flashback scene where he is telling the security people, what happened on the plane. So I
Mm-hmm.
actually asked you this, Mike, as soon as I got done watching the movie, and this can't be really a much of a complaint to me or anything like that, but as soon as I got done with it, I was just like, this doesn't make any sense. So the kid has a flashback about what happened on the plane from his perspective, right? It's all from his perspective. So
Mm-hmm.
why, whenever he is sleeping, does the mom have a flashback whenever she was attacked by a vampire? You see all these different flashbacks of the mom during situations when the kid is asleep or the kid isn't there, but it's supposed to be told from the perspective of the kid. So, like, is he supposed to be telling these guards, like, at this moment I went to sleep and my mom had a flashback? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
I could see that. I can see that. Maybe that's one of the flaws in the movie, which the movie did have some flaws, but I think other than focusing on that, I mean, I know the child is telling basically the story and what has happened, but besides that, I thought it was done well, man.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me
The
wrong. That's not a reason like to dislike it or anything. I actually really liked the movie. I thought it was very well told. I thought The story itself was really good. I thought having the small confined space of a plane be the
Me
entire
too.
film, like they used the location really well, where you had the entire upstairs where the cabin or where the seats and everything are, and then you have the lower area that they can get to with the luggage and the animals, and then they even have like the captain's or the attendant's quarters or whatever where they go to. The pilot is stored. It's just a really good use of the location of the of for the plane. But I thought the vampire effects were also really good. I thought the vampires
I
looked
agree.
really, really good, especially the main one that I think you were talking about, Eight Ball, Tyler. Whenever he, shoots himself up with her blood and turns himself into a vampire, and then she catches him on fire, and then you have that burn vampire look. Like, I thought that was really good. I really liked his look as a
Yeah.
vampire. And it's all practical effects. I don't remember seeing any like CG or anything anywhere, except
No.
for maybe some plane sequences of flying or something. But as far as the vampires go, the makeup and the blood and all that, I believe it was all practically done, and it looked really good. Now, Mike was right. The dubbing is very, very off, especially at the end of the movie. The beginning of the film, it did not bother
Yes.
me, but the further into the movie you got, the kids' dubbing got worse and worse, and I don't know why.
Yes.
But I
Yeah.
actually really really enjoyed the film. And Tyler, you haven't spoke much about it yet.
Uh-oh. I'm
Usually
nervous. I'm
usually
nervous
we know
here.
what that means.
I
That's
love y'all.
he did not like it.
No, dude. I mean, there's not many horror movies that like sneak by me. I had never, I had no idea what the hell this thing was. I was like, "What is this?" I've never heard of Blood Red Sky in my entire life. So like, it was a complete surprise to me. And let's just say I know why I didn't hear about it. So for me, was the entire thing was it dubbed? I thought it was.
Yeah.
I thought the actors spoke English. It just wasn't very good English.
No, it was dubbed.
It was
I
dubbed.
didn't realize that. Because I don't know. Okay, so I don't know if in the German language this may be a flaw. Because I was gonna just slam it for the acting being absolutely atrocious and unbelievably like bad. The little boy was pushing the annoyance of the Babadook, the boy from the Babadook. It was
Yeah.
exactly like that. The hijackers did an absolute horrible job, but if it was
What?
dubbed, yeah, oh my, the hijackers acting. Yeah,
Oh
watch it
man.
again. I'm telling you, it was absolutely the worst acting I've ever. It was on the level of like, I don't know, like it was. I came into it was like The Room quality acting to me. You
No,
got from it?
no,
Yes, it was. It was bad.
no.
It was
Oh,
bad.
hi, Amar.
Man.
That's no, nowhere near.
It was The Room. I'm telling you guys. I'm telling you. And it was specifically the hijackers. But here's the thing: if it was dubbed, maybe the original language maybe they were giving it their all. I don't know. Maybe they were like really doing a good job. Maybe the story was written well, the script was solid. I don't know, but for some reason, as it translated over, if it was dubbed, maybe they just stripped down the dialogue to where it was very easy to understand, and they just quickly just, hey, we got to get this done. Let's do it, kind of thing.
The dubbing is always overlooked as far as that goes, because it's never as intense as what the acting does. So if somebody is giving it their all when they're acting, the people in
Right.
the dubbing stations or whatever are just sitting in a studio room, and they're just trying to recreate the words. So they're not giving all the emotion as they would if they were actually on the plane, doing their stunts and everything. So it doesn't translate very well with dubbing. And I think that's where you're missing the mark there, is because you have to overlook that aspect of it. And I've told Mike this before, because Mike doesn't like dubbing in anything. Like, he
Yeah.
would be awful watching Italian films. And
Yeah.
when it comes to dubbing, like, that's one thing I completely overlook, is the translation between the actor's emotions and the dubbed voice.
Well, no, I can usually look past it, but the way it made the story come off was very, I guess you would say, just it was just a very like hard to like even believe some of the things they were saying. I don't know. Like,
I don't,
imagine there was this like one scene where they were in the cockpit and the guy calls in and he's like, flight blah 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 blah, whatever flight they were on. They were like, we noticed you have just went off radar. and we don't know where you're located at. Is everything okay? And they're like, yes, everything is fine. And they say, okay, have a good night. Like, I'm like, hello? And it wasn't even, it was very blatantly not the captain. Like, you could just, he said some stuff that was very not captain like. And I'm just like, okay, so they're going to completely believe this. And that wasn't the only instance. I wish I could remember all of them because as I was watching, I was like, what the hell? What the hell? Over and over and over again. Because every 5-10 minutes, there was some like really weird logic choices, like super, super odd. Or what about the fact that the plane caught on fire? Like literally, there's a fire. Like, why would you catch the plane on fire whenever you're going literally over
I
like, an ocean? They can't
I
land
thought this.
anywhere, and you're gonna say, okay, it's okay that the plane's on fire. We're gonna go up in flames right now. I'm working so hard to save my son and all these people on this flight that I'm gonna catch the plane on fire.
Okay, so
I,
the person that caught the plane on fire um was
It was the
the
mom.
villain. No, she put the fire out.
she put it out.
When did he catch us on? What are you? We're talking about the one where in the car.
Yeah, doesn't she puts the fire out, right?
No, well, I think eventually somebody puts the fire out eventually, but she started it.
I gotta look it up.
She started that
Bother me.
fire. I swear to you guys, she started the fire.
Hmm. But yeah, there was a few things like that because I was thinking the same thing though. Whenever the fire is happening, I said, "Oh, well, there's not very much oxygen inside that plane. It's going to use up all the oxygen with that fire." That was a thought too, but it was again, I overlook it the small little things like that that don't really relate too much to the story or to the plot. I can really easily overlook because also too, he shoots the gun and the door or there's like the hole in the door or whatever, and the pressure is like it, there's so much pressure that it blows stuff out, right? And that's what happens in all horror films with planes or whatever, any movie where there's a
Yeah.
plane. If there's a hole in the plane, the pressure is so intense it sucks everything out like instantly. You can't even move hardly. And then all of a sudden, like he drops the level down to like below cloud level, and all of a sudden the pressure is okay. It's okay to have the hole in the plane. Like it didn't make any sense to me. But it's again, it's something I can overlook just because it's just something not related to the effects or to the plot. Really, it's just there because they needed a cool thing to happen to move the story along. So I can easily overlook little details like that that don't make sense with things.
I mean, I can let some logic stuff kind of slip by me. Like I feel like I'm very equitable when I watch horror. I'm like, if the film was fun but bad, I can give it the credit. If the film was like really good, maybe a bit boring, I can give it the credit. But if it's just like not ticking any boxes for me, that's where I have a major problem. Um, let's see. So it is, I did confirm that is 8 Ball that injects himself with.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, that is correct. I'm trying to find information on the fire. I'm not finding the fire yet. Because
I
that's
think
what
you're
drove
right
me.
though, because she pours the gasoline in there, right?
Yeah. And
So
then
she pours the gasoline and
there are like many, but see, even I use the fire as an example. I use the cockpits, black box as an example. Those are two solid examples, but honestly, there are 15, 20 different things. I'm like, scratch my head. I'm like, I don't understand why exactly they would do that. Even the fact that it was on a plane to begin with and it started out as this like Mike said, it like it really kind of works as more of a film not related to vampires. So I don't really know why it should have to be a vampire because it was like the story, it was almost like the story was about a hijacking, and then
yeah.
eventually they were like, it's kind of boring, what do you think we should do? Oh hell, let's make the protagonist a vampire. It's kind of like that.
It's like that movie I watched about a year ago. It was Crocodile 2, where the entire 45 minutes to an hour of the film takes place with hijackers in a plane, and then all of a sudden the plane crashes in the swamp where the alligator is or crocodile is, and then the next 30 minutes of the movie is them getting attacked by the crocodile, and you would not know the difference if you just tuned in. It's like that.
Yeah, they were like, man, this hijacking movie is really not going well. What can we do? We have an idea. You know what I mean? Alligator too.
But
Um,
with even all the stuff that you said, all the logic things that don't make any sense, and the point where half of it is an action hijack movie, half of it is a vampire movie, I still found myself really enjoying what I was watching. I haven't watched it twice like Mike, so I don't have that second experience. But based off the first initial viewing, I enjoyed the movie, and I actually gave it the same rating that Mike did. I gave it a 7.
what about the high? I will say it did seem like I don't know what the budget even was, but geez, that thing was like it seemed expensive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it did. Yeah.
Too bad it was wasted.
Let's see. Oh my
I'm
gosh.
just waiting for you guys to just get so mad.
Let's see.
Oh, what did you give it, Tyler?
I don't want to. I don't want to say. I had
Budget was 17.7 million.
see that's insane
17 million. Jeez.
for a horror movie straight to Netflix in the middle of a pandemic that was shot in Germany. Jesus, that's really good.
That's steep.
I for all the right reasons, I've got to give this film a 3 out of 10.
Woo!
Okay. Well, it's actually
I-
better than what
I-
I thought you were going to give it.
No way.
Yeah, I thought you were going to give it like a 1 or a 2.
I'll just be honest with you guys. Even the high budget and how well it was shot, because I think that was there were honestly there were moments I'm just gonna say it. I felt like it was out of focus. I looked over at my fiance like twice. I was like, "Is this scene like completely out of focus to you?" I wasn't wearing my glasses, so maybe I'm crazy, but it seemed like they shot it out of focus. I don't know if they were out of time or what, but
I didn't catch that at all.
it's just like it was not working for me. I would say I'd give it a second chance, but I don't know if I could I don't know if I can get through it again, honestly.
So that's a total of 17 right there from Mike. So Blood Red Sky has a score of 17.
17.
Sorry, Mike. We love you.
No,
Well, not we love
dude,
you.
no.
Because he gave it a good score.
right.
All right, guys. So my film is a 1977 film that is by George Romero. And anybody listening who does not know this film, you're like, wow, I thought this was supposed to be a vampire theme week, not, a zombie theme week. But believe it or not, George Romero is actually known for one vampire film. It is called Martin.
From the director of Night of the Living Dead, Martin.
You probably never heard of it because the rights themselves have went to the producer. And the producer basically has, I think, Dawn of the Dead. He has, did he have a creep show? I'm trying to remember what he had. He had a couple of the different George Romero films. He worked with him for a very long time, and he's withholding the rights for himself because he wants to like obviously make a profit off of it. So even this film is criminally underseen, is what I'm trying to say, because of the status that it's currently at. It's a perfect time to talk about it though, because it's about to get a 4K restoration, because the director of photography had recently discovered a 4K 16 millimeter print that they could have restored to the 4K, I should say. So that's great, but overall, Richard Rubenstein's the name. If you're familiar with the name, he's produced Tales from the Dark Side, Dawn of the Dead, and Martin. Those are the three he currently owns. So even the one that we watch, guys, if you watch the file that I sent you of the film, it was in the wrong aspect ratio. It wasn't restored. It was the best quality possible, but there's no HD master for the film. So if you kind of watched it and the colors were a little off, it's in the wrong aspect ratio, it kind of seems a little off. That's because this film is unavailable widely. Excuse me. So aside from that, he's obviously known for his Pittsburgh movies, George Romero, and this film features the entire Pittsburgh gang. I mean, he worked with them on Dawn of the Dead. It has George Romero himself stars in it as the priest. It has Tom Savini in a couple scenes. Tom Savini also did the special effects. It was made for a very, very low budget. And just like all of George Romero's other films, while this one might be a little like, sex driven, a little slow, It's intentional because Martin was, made as a kind of like a political statement in slow cinema. And by slow cinema, I really mean just films that kind of just take a long time per scene. And this is actually an entire subgenre of film, and I think that a lot of people could be turned off by that. But something about Martin taking its time kind of gives it the novelty, and it kind of does explain the story in a way that does show that subtext of I guess you would say like religion themes. You have the theme of like vampirism. It kind of has that traditional flow as well, vampirism, by like the romance in it. And it's kind of like one of those like films that's kind of like off-putting, I think, to a lot of people because of that, because it's such a strange and odd film. But overall, it's something that you really, really should seek out. For one, it's one of George Romero's lost films. It's just not coming back into light, and I just love the hell out of this film, I'll be honest. What did you guys think?
I think you can debate whether this is a vampire movie or not. Now, I know it has to deal with the aspect of like, he calls
Drinking
him
blood and yeah.
yeah, drinking blood. They call him Nosferatu. There's the flashback scenes where he
Chris,
is
he's
like,
Nosferatu.
it's black and white. So, I mean, I don't know, but it doesn't feel like a vampire. You don't really know for sure if he's a vampire because also he goes through and he rapes women. He cuts their wrists and stuff after he's done. It just doesn't
Yeah.
seem like something any traditional vampire does. And then on that aspect, you really don't know truly whether he really is a vampire. It's just all it could be all in his head, or his grandpa or the grandpa guy. He is telling him that he's Nosferatu because that's what he wants to believe. So it's almost like he's putting this idea out
Encourage.
there. Yeah. And so I think you can really debate whether it's truly a vampire movie, but I still think it still qualifies because it puts those aspects into the film. But it's also just I don't know if it really is a vampire or not.
It doesn't go into
I
that like old world Transylvanian style of Victorian vampirism. It goes for a more like 70s sleaze approach to that. It's basically like if there was a vampire that was in the 70s that was trying to disguise himself as a normal person, it would kind of be Martin. Which I
So
do love the
yeah.
scene. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know if it's just me or not, but did you guys get the feeling that the movie should have taken place in like Transylvania or somewhere in a different country than the U.S. because it takes place in the United States. And to me, it felt, I don't know if it's just the accent that the grandpa guy had, but it felt very like international. It felt like it should be like in one of those real small Transylvanian towns or something.
Well, keep in
See
mind.
that
Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
see that part didn't bother me. I liked it, but there was a kind of relating to what Lax was talking about. Um, I think it was more like he was like psychotic. He had like these psychotic tendencies, obviously, and like basically lived out of a suitcase. I if he is a vampire, he can walk in sunlight. He doesn't sleep in a coffin. He's not afraid of, crosses, religious, um, relics or anything like that. But I liked it. I liked how is he a vampire? Is he a serial killer? Um, it's almost like he's a serial killer that basically just stalks for people's blood and to drink it. It's like he's almost obsessed with it. It was a good twist, um, but nothing kind of like is concrete on him being a vampire. But I was very curious about it. I wanted I was kind of stuck in wanting to know more. But to me, I felt like he was misunderstood. And I think his whole life, his family was basically telling him that he's a vampire. Encouraging him, pushing him to those beliefs. And I think that was a part that pushed him into being like mentally psychotic. Um, because obviously there was a lot wrong with him, but it didn't bother me. I really enjoyed this film a lot. Because it's not your typical, you know, vampire. It was more of a serial killer, stalker, murder. It did have some slow parts, and I didn't even mind the uncle. What was his name? Was it Kuda, the uncle?
Kuda, yeah, it's his cousin.
Yeah, cousin. Sorry, cousin. And you know, murdered him in bed, right? So, like, didn't
I
murder
like
him.
the scene. It was
Yeah,
like, "Thank you for coming
yeah,
to stay with me. I will slay you." I
yeah.
was
I
like,
will slay
"Hello."
you. Like I, I enjoyed it. It was
I didn't
weird.
understand that part.
I
It
loved
was,
it so much. It's so funny.
yeah.
Well,
It was weird.
like, did Martin like agree to this? Oh yeah, I'll come live with you, and then you can murder me. Like that seemed like the whole idea of the movie. Like,
He's like convinced he's a vampire, but I think Martin's just trying to convince him he's not.
Right. Yeah.
Hide that identity. So it's just fun. It's like, I will find out, and if I do, I will
You're
slay
dead.
you. Yeah, you're
You're dead.
dead to me.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like Van Helsing. It's like a modern day. He's like his cousin's almost
That's
like
a
a Van
good
Helsing.
description.
But
Yes. Yes, Tyler. That's good.
yeah, just like what Chris was saying with how it should have been taking place in like a small like Transylvanian style town. I think the reason being was that George Romero, this was one of his like earlier films. He didn't have much of a budget for it. So I think what it was he was a very Pittsburgh based filmmaker of the time. He worked with all the people from Pittsburgh. And I know that while they were in Pittsburgh, they were really making these like $100,000 budget films, and I think they had no resource at all to try to make this anywhere else. It may have been based somewhere else if they had the resources for it, but I think that they shot the entire film in like the director of photography's grandma's house. So they were very, very limited on budget and time. One thing that's really interesting about it, though, apparently there's a 3.5 hour long director's cut, and that's coming to the Blu-ray. So I'm just like,
Hmm.
how are we missing 2 hours of this?
yeah,
But
yeah.
overall, I mean, like, it tells a really, really interesting story. I think the way it's cut now, I mean, it's like the Ramiro kind of like theatrical cut. So it was approved by Ramiro, that cut was. So it still tells a very good story. Still his favorite film he's ever made, he said.
I went into the
Cool.
movie because this was the first viewing for me, and I went in thinking that I was not gonna like the movie. I had heard only bad things about the movie. Every time I looked up a review or heard anybody talk about it on any show or site, it was the movie's extremely slow. This is Romero's worst film, yada yada yada. So I went into it with very, very low expectations. And then as soon as the movie started, I thought, man, I am not gonna like this. But the longer you watch the movie, when you get into the story where Martin actually goes to his cousin's house and stays there, he starts developing these relationships with people around the town. The action scenes, where he breaks into people's houses and stuff, is really, really entertaining. So it changed my aspect the longer I watched the movie. And ultimately, even though it was weird seeing a young Tom Savini in the movie, I thoroughly enjoyed watching the film. And it's
Yeah.
not the it's not the best. It's not the worst. It's somewhere in between. So it's, yes, I can recommend it, but is it something amazing? Is it masterpiece? No, it's nowhere near either of those. And you can definitely see that it was an early stage of Romero wanting to do his own, because this happened, it happened after Night of the Living Dead, but it was before Dawn of the Dead. So it
I
was
think it
in
was right.
between.
Was it right around the same time? I think they were shot like back to back, essentially. So
Yeah, because that was what, 77, and Dawn of the Dead would have been 78, right?
it would have been right before.
Uh, yeah, so you're talking about two of the greatest zombie films ever created, and this sits directly in between that. So I can see where people, like, if you go straight into watching Romero's films, I can see where this can kind of be on the lower aspect of his filmmaking career. But I I still think it's a entertaining film, and I still recommend it. Whether it's a
Yeah.
vampire movie, you don't really know, but I would give it a five. That's what I gave it, was a five.
See, I really enjoyed this film. I didn't care if it was a vampire movie or not. I was into it. I thought it was really well done to be with not a huge budget. It was creepy. It was entertaining. Yeah, it was a little slow in parts, but
That
I
surprises
gave
me,
this
Mike.
movie I gave this movie a 7. I really enjoyed it. I really really enjoyed it.
Hey, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that really surprised. This was a movie I thought Mike was absolutely going to hate because Mike, you usually like the newer,
yeah,
faster paced films with a lot of
yeah.
action, a lot of gore,
Right.
and this is
Yeah.
not that at all. So I really thought that going into this, like you were going to hate the movie, and whenever I started watching it, I was like, oh man, this is definitely not for Mike
Not
at all.
See what kind of got me was in the beginning, like the stalkerish on the train type of thing. Like it was creepy. Like something like that could really happen to an individual, especially a woman traveling alone. And that's like, man, that could really happen. And the fight scene, like it was not over the top, but it was still not terribly cheesy. Um, but at the same time, what when was this film? What 76? Was it 76, 78?
77.
77, yeah. It feels
70,
incredibly
77.
70s.
Yeah, and but even being a 70s film, like, that I really enjoyed it. I really like this. It was not my cup of tea that I would have picked personally, but I'm glad I watched it because I will definitely recommend it.
Oh yeah, I absolutely love this film and adore it. I would give it an 8 out of 10. Yeah,
Solid.
honestly, you know what? I would give it a 9 because it's
Ooh,
not like absolute masterpiece 10 out of 10 for me, but it's definitely way above good or even great. So I think it deserves a 9 just because George Romero gave such an interesting effort and it says so much more than just about vampirism. It's so cool.
it is. I will agree. I really enjoyed this.
Sweet.
I would like to see the new version when it comes out to see the extended cut and all the stuff that we never got to see. I would be interested enough into seeing it again. And a lot of times when I rate movies that I recommend to people and give like fives, they're usually movies I probably won't watch again, but still enjoy them. But I think this is a movie that, even though I gave it a 5, I think I can go back and watch again sometime down the road. And with this new 4K that's coming out, I think that would be a good opportunity for me to watch it again and see if my rating changes because I didn't hate it. I there was just a few things about it that made me not think it's the greatest or the worst. So um yeah, I'm interested in seeing it again.
Yeah, I mean, like, so
Yeah.
Martin's never really been given a fair shot, I feel like, because the 4K coming out now, it's gonna be the first time ever it's presented in the proper aspect ratio. First time ever that George Romero's true director's cut's gonna be coming out. It's gonna be the first time that's actually been restored in any kind of HD format. And past HD, it's like UHD at this point. So I think we're gonna be seeing a completely different film because it's crazy that a film is only available on VHS quality, jumps and skips DVD, skips Blu-ray, and goes straight to 4K. Which there has been a Martin DVD, but that was a pan and scan from a VHS. So we're literally stuck with a VHS title right now. And soon to be
Hmm.
a 4K. Hey.
Yeah, I want to see it. I would definitely like to see that.
I think the interesting
Yeah.
thing is the 4K came out today as we're recording this. So I'm gonna order it.
Huh.
Oh, nice. So I think that gives you 21, Tyler.
That is
Yeah,
correct.
I really
21.
enjoyed it.
What you got, Chris?
Okay, so the film that I chose to put into the battle for vampire films was a movie I had never seen before, and it is a Hammer film production, and it is from 1969. It is Dracula Has Risen from the Grave.
To know him is eternal damnation. Dracula has risen from the grave.
And I know this goes by a couple different titles as well, but I think here in the US it was only ever released as Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. Like I said, it's a Hammer film, and it has Christopher Lee as Dracula. And with it, Dracula has been, I don't know if this is a direct sequel to another Hammer film. I'm not too into the horror or the Hammer films. So as far as sequels go and how everything lines up in the world of Dracula, I'm not familiar on those things. Um, so this one has Dracula has already been laid to rest. He is in a casket, buried underground, and everybody believes that he is gone for good. Like he's been killed. He's not there. Nobody in the town has anything to fear any longer. They can go amongst their normal lives and everybody can go to church, but still that fear has been lingering in the area amongst town goers. And we have I can't remember the characters' names much, but we have two characters who one is a priest and one is like the main town um core like curator or whatever he does. That he's like the I don't know if he's a mayor or what, but he pretty much runs the town that the church sits in, and he thinks that everybody should be attending church, but people are too scared to go because the shadow from the castle, from Dracula's castle, hits the church. So they think they're going to be cursed and that Dracula's going to come back and kill them. And so he says, "Well, I'm going to put this to rest. I'm going to go up to Dracula's castle, and I'm going to see to it that there's nothing there, nothing to be feared by." And in doing so, when they get there, of course, he brings the priest with him, and um, a, one thing after another leads to the priest being not wanting to go to the castle. He's too scared, and he ends up finding Dracula's grave, and he, unbeknownst to him, accidentally unleashes Dracula from the grave, which makes Dracula, you know, what is it like the trance or whatever he does to make him to
Right.
control the priest, and he
Mhm.
pretty
Yeah.
much puts the priest in control to go back to the town to lure the young women to Dracula so that he can start fresh again. The one thing that I've noted about this movie, I made this note when I was watching it, was not much Dracula in this movie. He's really not
Yeah.
he's really not featured in the film. It's more of the priest. The priest is like the main character, and he is anytime that something bad happens, it's always the priest. Um, but Christopher Lee as Dracula is most people's favorite Dracula version, and I understand why he's really good. The stare that he does with his
Yep.
bloodshot eyes is very
Yep.
creepy. He, I mean, I think he's probably one of the best Draculas ever to best people to ever portray Dracula. Um, I thought the setting was really good. This one takes place in like the Transylvania town, like I was saying, Martin should have taken place in. This is the same town I feel like Martin should have taken place in. Um, but we have a young girl who, um, it's like not the priest, but the is it the no the mayor. I'm just gonna call him the mayor because I don't know what he really
It's
does.
Monsignor. It's
Okay,
like
so
a
yeah,
religious
so
thing.
his daughter is engaged or going to be engaged to this young man who works at this bar or tavern or whatever, and Dracula is eyeing his daughter. So the priest is doing everything he can to lure that daughter to Dracula, and they basically have to pretty much put Dracula to end again. They have to figure out a way to stop Dracula from getting to the girl, so that way he can be, she can be married again. Um, I really liked it. I thought it was really well done. It was very surprising to me too, because I thought it was going to be really slow. I thought it was going to be really boring. I'd never seen this film before. I've only ever seen one other Hammer Dracula film, and I actually really liked it too. So maybe there's something to that. What did you guys think of this Dracula Has Risen from the Grave?
I absolutely loved it. I love everything about it. I think that you're absolutely right. Christopher Lee makes the best Dracula of all time. I don't know if anybody could ever quite play it as good as him. Bill Gochi gave it a great effort. I mean, he's probably my second favorite because he's so classic. Excuse me. But yeah, I mean, Christopher Lee just kills it, and the atmosphere that Hammer, horror films has, really portrays it perfectly. And I think that you watch Horror of Dracula? Was that the other one you watched?
Yes, that's the one I'd seen before, and I really enjoy the horror of Dracula.
That's the most like classic one. That's really really good. And then Taste the Blood of Dracula is also really good. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's one of the few Hammer films not made by oh my God, the one dude. Is it Terrence Fisher? So this film's not directed by Terrence Fisher, and Terrence Fisher is usually the one that directs most Hammer films, but this is Freddie Francis. And Freddie Francis has done a number of Hammer horror films, but they're like the two most well known. But when you think Hammer, you think, Dracula Frankenstein with sex. It's just kind of thing. I don't know. And that's, I mean, and that's what it is. And everything about it is just stunning. And I mean, it is a British production, so all the actors are British, so it kind of adds to that kind of overall atmosphere. So the acting is superb in that way too. So yeah, I love it.
I thought there was a funny scene when um, the the young girl that's the mayor's daughter goes in like goes into the tavern where her boyfriend is working, and she gets lured to the basement where she's getting attacked by Dracula, and everybody in the tavern is like, hey, she went to the basement, go find her. And then
Yeah,
he goes to
yeah,
the basement. He's like, oh, she's not here. Comes back upstairs and like, oh, you didn't find her? She's in the basement. Go find her. Goes back down to the basement. Nope, still not here. Goes back up. You didn't find her yet. Like it was really funny.
yeah.
It's so fun.
That, no, I really enjoyed this as well. I will tell you, yeah, Christopher Lee by far played an amazing role, and I thought he was just God, the red eyes, and just his facial features and the way he presents himself as Dracula is just it's creepy. It's just that but it's just done so well, and hands down the best Dracula there is. And the movie, I did think it was slower paced, but I didn't mind it. I did not mind it. And these are two of the older movies that I have not seen before that I didn't mind it being slow. I appreciated it. I appreciated the time frame. The acting, even at that time to now watching it, I didn't mind. I thought it was well done, and it 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 wasn't there wasn't a lot of Dracula, but when he was there, he made an impact, and it was so impactful that it completed the movie, and I enjoyed this. There was a little bit of comedy in it. I really, God, I don't even know what to give this. I probably like this the most out of them all, to be honest with you. I gave this an 8. I really enjoyed this. I gave it an 8.
So this is a quick note, and I don't know how true this is, but after watching the film, I was doing a little research on it, and I read something that this was the very first movie to ever be rated by the MPAA.
I had no
So a
idea.
little bit of trivia there. It's kind of cool.
That was cool.
Well, I know that like okay, so if I'm remembering this correct, I think this one comes after this one Dracula film from Hammer. See, Hammer made a lot of Dracula films, and Christopher
Yeah.
Lee is well known as Dracula because he's played Dracula more than any other actor in history. He has the most Dracula roles. That being said, it follows up from this one film, and Dracula is killed in it. I remember that very specifically. I forget which one it was. Maybe I can look it up real quick. I think was it Prince of Darkness? Prince of Darkness?
Dracula Prince of Dark. I've actually never seen it. So like I said, I have not delved
Yeah.
into the Hammer horror at all.
Here it is. I think this one follows. This one was 67, right?
Uh,
Or 69.
Dracula Has Risen from the Grave was 69.
And then the one before. Okay. Okay. Wait. I got this. So Dracula Prince of Darkness was from 1966. It was directed by Terrence Fisher, is what I'm thinking. So that's that. And Dracula was killed at the end of it. And he drowns in like this freezing cold water. And this film is basically Dracula is in his grave because he had been killed in the film before. So they had to find a way to like write him back into the story. Because he had some films to make, guys. I mean,
Duh. Yeah,
Christopher Lee
boy.
has to come back.
I loved it.
We're not to the Wicker Man quite yet, but we're getting there.
And
Yeah.
I also noted this too. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but Dracula's castle, they never show the inside of the castle. You only see the outside of it. So the entire movie takes place outside of Dracula's castle.
Huh.
Very Hammer. I also love how all the Hammer films have this kind of like gimmick to it. It always has some kind of like filmmaking gimmick, and this one was called Technoscope, which I think is kind of funny. And it doesn't mean anything; it's a widescreen film, but it was presented in Technoscope because Hammer was all about trying to sell their films to audiences, and they were responsible to get the asses back in the seats. They were like, "We don't have much money, we don't have many resources, but you know what? We're gonna make a hell of a film. It's gonna be in Technoscope." And people are going to show up for it, and we're going to make tons of money by mixing sex, atmosphere, horror, and that is honestly the birth of a lot of horror fans today, stemmed from that success of the Hammer run. So it's
Yeah.
it's a big piece of rooted history of horror, and you can't really have the horror that we have today without saying, hey, Hammer played a role in this, because they certainly did. And Hammer honestly is still around today. And I
Yeah,
mean,
I
they
really,
took a long hiatus too.
I really want to dive into more Hammer films. So maybe we could have that topic sometime get added to the
I
will,
mean,
hopefully, because I'd like to see more of it.
that'd be good.
Frankenstein and Dracula, I'm telling you, both of them are fantastic.
Yeah.
And The Devil Rides Out, that's a very good one too.
But with Christopher Lee as Dracula, the effects were actually really good because whenever he gets stabbed with the cross or whatever, it actually looked really well done. It was really gory for that moment. There's not much gore in the film, but it's just that particular moment really pretty bloody scene, really well done. I really liked it. I thought the atmosphere and the whole, you know, British time period piece looked really, really good. Really entertaining. I gave this movie a 7 out of 10.
For me, 8 out of 10 all the way.
Yeah.
And
I
even
loved it.
some of the other ones, they will even push 9s. And honestly, The Devil Rides Out, I mean, I have a couple Hammer films I would consider possibly 10s. So I'm telling you, check out every single one of these, from Horror of Dracula all the way up through this one, and as the run continues, because it just keeps getting high quality, output over and over and over again.
That means I won. That means I won.
I'm pissed. It's a 1.
I think that gives me 23, right? 8,
That was,
8,
that was solid.
and 7. 23.
Yep,
Yeah.
23.
Yep.
The number 23.
So there you have it, guys. Dracula has risen from the grave with a score of 23. Mike, you had a score for Blood Red Sky at a score of 17, and Tyler Martin had a score of 21. So awesome. That means I get to put another category on the wheel for our next genre or next category, next episode, whatever you want to call it.
I'm honestly okay with
Let's
that.
see.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm 100% cool with that. Okay, let's go and take a break, and we'll come back and we're going to spin the wheel.
We are back, guys, and we are ready to spin the wheel to see which topic is going to be chosen next for the next category. And I was the one that won this round, so I got to replace the category topic. So we remove vampires and replace it with 80s slasher films. So now the topics that can be chosen for next episode will be either ghost stories, 80s slasher films, found footage, possession flicks, clown town, films from the year you were born, dark comedy horror, werewolves, or shark attack movies. So Tyler, go ahead and spin that wheel and let's see what our next episode is going to be.
Here we go.
Bum, bum, bum,
Ooh.
That's gonna be fun.
bum. Ghost stories. Okay. Ghost stories. That's going to be interesting because we just covered some haunted house movies a couple episodes ago and we pretty much watched they were all ghost movies. So I'm interested in seeing how what we all choose for legit just ghost movies.
Already have mine.
Wait, what is it?
Love it. You know what, Chris? I want to say something. You always say Tyler never likes the films that I bring on, and literally, I think this might have been the first week in like 5 episodes that you brought a film on. I'm like, you know what? This film is genius. It might be one of the best films of all time. So there we go.
You're talking about the horror rises or Dracula's risen from the grave.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, yeah, that's fair. I didn't say that.
You said that to do it last time. Like Tyler never likes the films that I bring.
No, I'm saying that I didn't say that you were gonna hate this one. I
Oh,
knew you were gonna like this one.
oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I knew
Oh
you
yeah.
were gonna like it because it was a Hammer film.
Heck yeah. You know me. All right. So we are doing ghost stories next time. Thank you guys
Yes.
for tuning in. I hope you guys had a great time. We had a great time recording. And next time we'll be seeing you, we'll be talking a little bit about the spookies. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I like it.
Awesome. All right. See you guys.
I like it.
See you guys.